No ngā pōti e whakahe. Hawana, hawhakamanu whiriti a koe au. Ha, kamate, kamate,
The gallery is to be cleared.
Well, Debbie Ngarewa-Parker is a Maori Party MP who took part in that haka. She's accusing the ACT Party leader David Seymour of trying to erase Maoris from New Zealand's history.
I think our real concerns are the fact that there are only two parties to the treaty. One was the Crown and the other were the chiefs of the hapu and the iwi. So our biggest fears is that this is a Trojan horse. This is David Seymour's way of trying to rewrite the treaty and most significantly replace the Indigenous peoples of Aotearoa and homogenise us, other us and have us all as one. Now, the fundamental problem here is that, of course, all citizens of Aotearoa are equal and should be equally to live as tangata whenua, as the Indigenous peoples. That is enshrined in the treaty and is also the constitutional foundation of everything here in Aotearoa. So that's our concerns, is that we're being written out of the history of Aotearoa and the future of Aotearoa.
Well, Debbie, David Seymour says that you end up with some government departments that have two chief executives, one representing each treaty partner, and that you end up with an education curriculum where honouring the treaty becomes almost more important than maths. What do you make of that?
Look, I don't think there are inefficiencies. What we have is again, an attempt by a very minor party, it barely got 8%, to write out and wipe out the existence of Indigenous people being here before settlements, before colonisation. And, Indigenous people do maths. We navigated all around the world. We did science. We were extremely progressive and economically. And again, this is about embracing who we are and making this a continued part of not only the education system, the health system. We have huge inequities in Aotearoa, fundamental inequities because of the fact that we had laws put in to be able to confiscate land, displace people, confiscate languages, all the sorts of things that we see around the world have happened to other Indigenous peoples. The difference in New Zealand, though, is that we've had the treaty, which has been used to address these inequities, used to remind of the breaches and address, again, the horrific past that we have. I come from Pati, Haka, where there was absolute atrocities that happened to people who are passively resisting. So these are a critical part of Aotearoa's history. We were the last of the nations to be colonised. And David Seymour's attempt is to effectively wipe that out and basically say there were no Indigenous peoples here.
Yes.
And therefore the treaty doesn't exist.
Yes. Now, politically, though, the Principles Bill is due for a second reading, but the National Party in New Zealand First will vote it down, meaning whatever happens, a referendum is unlikely to take place. So why are there specific concerns about that?
I think the specific concerns are that we should never have been traded and utilised to be able to form a coalition agreement. And, we heard today absolutely, because there's such a lot of, backlash, National's own voters have been polling poorly. Their own voters are disgusted that they're allowing this division in Aotearoa. We all respect we have different political views, but this has gone too far. And so even conservative voters in Aotearoa are concerned with the division, they're concerned with a very minor party, like I said, 8%, being able to tell the bigger parties in New Zealand what to do. So I think, and then to sit there and say that we're going to spend 6 months of taxpayers' money when we're dealing with a climate crisis, a cost of living crisis, the fact that we've got more New Zealanders continuously going over to Australia is a real kick in the guts. We should be working together in unity to address the issues that we have as Aotearoa. Instead, we're back in, gone back 180 years. And I think the biggest thing that we have to say is at no stage has either the king, the crown, or Maori chiefs asked David Seymour to intervene on our behalf and tinker with the treaty. No one. He has absolutely no mandate to do that on any of our behalves.
And are you also concerned about a possible citizen-initiated referendum as suggested by the former National Party leader Don Brash?
I think Don Brash is well known. I think you've got some pretty polarised politicians like him in Australia as well, and you're always going to have the Don Brashes in the world. I think the deepest, biggest frustration is that this has become and given airtime. And if I can just quickly describe the cycle of elections in New Zealand. The election campaigning season starts the second half of next year. This goes on for ACT until the second half of next year. So it is part and parcel of an ongoing campaign strategy to prepare them for the elections. And, sadly, again, like I said, we are a really great country and we have a lot of fabulous relationships, Māori and non-Māori. And we do a lot of fabulous work together. You can see that even offshore. And sadly, what we've got is politicians using their clout and their influence to divide Aotearoa at a time when we really need to be focused on solutions.
Now, the Maori language in the public service has been wound back and the Maori Health Authority has been abolished. Debbie, what's been the impacts of that?
I think this is probably the saddest part, and we've had a lot of international media really shocked that this is New Zealand in 2024. The impact has meant that the last 56 years of incremental progress to address the inequities. We have the worst educational stats, prison stats, health stats. Māori die 8 to 9 years earlier than non-Māori, and unfortunately, the solutions that have come up are now being completely banned. So it is a kick in the guts for those who are trying to get everyone back to a equitable living and inequitable living in Aotearoa. You cannot live equally if there's inequities. So, we have a champion from David Seymour speaking from the top of the echelons, from a very privileged, very affluential, high socioeconomic perspective to Māori who are suffering economically and suffering socially. So, that's the crossroads, is that, again, like I say, we could be and should be spending this energy, the investment from taxpayers on something that isn't going to get kicked out of the House in the second reading. So when you sort of said to me, why does this matter when you know it's going to get kicked out? The reality is that it's also sadly as in the backdrop of an agenda where this coalition government has decided to, as you said, to ban, to dismantle every policy advance that has started to try and claw back those disparities.
And what can you tell us about the sort of the non-Maori public's perception of what's going on here? What do they believe to be right?
Yeah, so I guess the reality is, so we have been at the Hikoi most of the time from the beginning of the top of the North Island. There are just as many non-Maori, Pākehā, Pacifica, Asians who have been walking with Maori. We have had absolute overwhelmed by the support of non-Maori who really just want to get on and continue to grow this fabulous country for our grandchildren.
Okay, Debbie Ngarewa-Parker, thanks very much for your time.
Anytime. Thank you.